Good evening. We're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Dr. Thomason, roll call.
President Reese, members of the board, please let the record show that all board members are here tonight.
Thank you. And we are going to have a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, we'll move on. I move that we approve the agenda.
Second.
Any questions or comments regarding the agenda? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That motion carries 5-0. Dr. Thomason, Superintendent's report.
President Reese, members of the board, we've got an exciting week coming up. Starting tonight with our middle school's open house. So middle school's open house started about an hour ago, and so far, no news is good news. Things are moving right along. We do have an HVAC unit that we're looking into that's slowing some things up at Cooley, but everything else is moving along perfectly. Tomorrow night, we have Meet the Teacher night at our elementary school starting at 5:30, followed by the first day of school on Monday, July 22nd. So things are ready to go and ready to kick off. And then our next governing board meeting will be on Wednesday, August 7th, right here in the boardroom at 5:30.
And Dr. Thomason, did you have something this morning?
Oh, this morning we started off with our welcome back to school rally, and so that was exciting. We had 2 hours of presentations from John Perrycone, who's a national speaker on school leadership, and gave us a great performance and got us ready to kick off.
Perfect, thank you. We will move on to board comments, and following that, yes, the rally was very good. Mr. Perrycone joined us last year as well, and I love his stories about when he was a teacher. So it was great to see all the teachers and everyone back getting ready to come back to school.
Last week, we also did a new teacher orientation, and Mrs. Kaler and I were both there and present, and those teachers are so excited to be joining Higley. So thank you for all those new teachers.
Any other board comments?
I just want to say a little shout out to all of our community education teens that worked this past summer. There was a lot that I saw on our supplemental pay, and it's a great summer job for our students, and so many names I even recognized in our high schools. So just a little shout out to all those kids that did spend their summer working. It's good for them, so thank you to them.
Nice. And I want to thank Mrs. Reach and her team for coordinating and putting together the rally. That takes a lot of work and a lot of time and everything. So thank you. It is a great event, and we appreciate the time and effort you and your team put into it, and all the coordination, getting the buses and all the teachers here. So thank you so much.
Good luck finding another speaker too for next year. I know you're already looking.
All right, then we'll go on to request to speak. Do we have any request to speak tonight? All right, we will go on to the consent. I move that we approve the consent agenda with the following changes: that 6.11 will be removed, and will be brought back at our next board meeting. And the vote for 6.14 will occur after the presentation for 7.2 on the late start Wednesday.
Second.
Any questions or comments on the consent agenda?
President Reese,
Mrs. Kaler?
I just love that they do the pre-approval overnight field trips for all of our AIA state tournament competitions. I know that just takes a lot of future paperwork off the table, so I appreciate that being on here even before school starts. Awesome.
Any other questions or comments? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries 5-0. We will go on to our action and information items for 7.1. We have the fiscal year 19 monthly governing board financial report for June 2019. Any questions for Mr. Holland? No? Thank you for getting that all put together for us. All right, then we will move on to 7.2, our presentation for the Late Start Wednesday high school pilot opportunity.
President Reese, members of the board, as preparing for the information item, I do want to say that I apologize for getting this to us so late. There was some challenges with the change in administration at the district office, and that was something that fell through the cracks, but we did want to get it to the board before the school year started. That was something that we thought that was very important, and I do apologize for bringing it to you so late, but none of these individuals had anything to do with that. It just happened to happen because of the transition and administration at the district office.
All right, so President Reese, Governing Board, Dr. Thomason, Cabinet and Community, we're excited tonight to share some information with you. As Dr. Thomason shared, this is the very first board meeting that has happened since I learned about this. But what's exciting is that I'm here tonight with these two amazing high school principals, obviously Steve Tannenbaum and Alan Fields, who have been working with me very, very closely on the work and discussion that had been happening over the previous year to move this together. So we're here tonight to talk with you about this pilot opportunity and to talk about kind of where this fits into a larger conversation and planning in the future, where there will be lots of advanced information and communication about what we're thinking about and what we learn about. So with that said, I'd like for our amazing principals to talk with you a little bit about this opportunity, because this is important. When we're looking at the work that we're doing this year, particularly in curriculum instruction assessment and the things that need to happen, time with teachers is incredibly valuable. And so these two gentlemen have come with a proposal, a plan on how to embed some time in working with teachers more closely, more frequently, with having minimal disruption to student schedule. So I'd like for them to kind of talk a little bit about the why and the logistics here for this year.
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Thomason, Cabinet, thank you so much for having us as well. Talk a little bit about the difference. So secondary in professional development with half days is a struggle at times. The high school never sleeps. It's always going. When you have a half day in an elementary school setting or a middle school setting, generally those students will go home. The after school activities they're there, of course, but they're a little bit less compared to a full comprehensive high school that we're both very proud of. And so with that, you have so many students that are still on campus. The supervision side of that is, I could tell you the rotations of security that go out and stay on, and coaches that rotate around so they can get professional development, but we never leave students unsupervised. But they can't start practice, they can't start clubs, they can't start those pieces until they have all of their staff members there. Even with some of our, fine arts programs, we have great volunteers, but they can't get off work as well until their job allows them to do so. So the struggle comes from, well, then how do you find something as well that can not impact the extracurricular, but most importantly as well is the academic time in the classroom. Half days, around 11:45 release time from an instructional standpoint. Those days, I would love to tell you that every day and every minute you can get something out of kids, which you can. However, it's more of a struggle on a half day. I mean, the reality of is kids know they get out early. Their parents know they get out early. They're out off of campus early, driving themselves, walking home. And when you look at the alternative of being able to find some way to provide consistent professional development, and I think the consistency is the key here, that we have a consistent opportunity to have professional development and have meeting times with our teachers, is why this option came about and started to be talked about. And it's also, of course, mirrored and done in other districts. It's not something, that's brand new. It's something brand new here, but something that you've seen in other districts out there. I personally have had some experience either being a teacher as well as being an administrator in districts that have put these into place. And there's a lot of value that can be there. A little bit about some of the logistics here. So as you head into the logistics, and please let me know if there's questions as we go. The adjustment is relatively small from a standpoint of minutes from the school time starting. So it's a start time of 7:40 there, which is a 15-minute change for us. Of course, for our teachers, though, it allows all of our teachers to be together in one sitting. Bus pickup and drop off does not change at all, which is also a nice piece. As many of our transportation department works very hard between the drop off from a high school and elementary into middle school. It's something that does not change that for them. From students who ride the bus currently, approximately 478 students ride the bus last year at Higley High School, and roughly 503 students in the morning ride the bus at Williamsfield. So coming on to our campus, we're talking about a very small group of students that are actually riding the bus and on campus that would be there anywhere from that 6:50 to 7:10 drop-off period there. I know there was some conversations about those students, and rightfully so. The other students who then walk, are dropped off, or then drive themselves will technically not have to be on campus until the first bell rings at 7:35 with a 7:40 start time for the school day. The other element there, of course, which is part of the calendar, is that no half days or no late start will take place on an actual half day, and that has been corrected by Cabinet and Dr. Foley with the calendar.
So new to the area, and my first board meeting, I get to come stand and present. So Alan Field's a new principal at Higley High. I want to thank the board for this opportunity to be here. I already want to tell you I absolutely love my school, and we're off to a fantastic start at Higley High. I'm going to speak a little bit to the benefits for teachers. One of the things that Mr. Tannenbaum alluded to was that when you do a early release at high school, the afternoon, coaches are drawn and pulled away from the building. With a late start, the coaches are going to be there. They're available. Activities are not happening in the morning like that. So coaches that were pulled out before from time to meet with their department or meet with other departments are going to be available. So that's a big benefit to teachers to doing a late start. The other benefit is that we used to have common prep for some of our departments. This allows more common prep time, more meeting time, more time available between teachers, as well as the ability to meet with other departments so we can get a cross-department collaboration effort going. Mr. Tannenbaum mentioned the consistent opportunity. I think that's huge when we're trying to move things forward. One of the biggest survey results from our staff at Higley High last year was that they wanted more professional development opportunities. So having every Wednesday available for that gives us an opportunity to just continue to build. And it's a huge benefit to us that it's a small tweak to impact a student schedule and student day, but it's a large amount of time actually every Wednesday that we can devote to professional development for our teachers.
Sure. So a couple different options, and Ms. Fields actually talked about a couple, but options that we'll have open in the morning, of course, you know, your normal cafeteria time for students, time for socializing, which of course they love, but it's supervised socializing time. But some of the pieces there from more of an academic standpoint, we have some tutoring opportunities that are already taking place. Many of our NHS students provide tutoring already. Of course, it's the crunch on how much time in order to do that. So that allows for that. It allows for that club that is already supervised by one of our classified staff in our library that allows those students to do that. We'll have counselors available. Our idea from our setup on our campus a little bit is to open up Ms. Buscema's door leading into there, as well as the library, which has your College and Career Center open for them and has your counselors open for them. As well into the library, which of course we have plenty of computers in, and plenty of places for students to be able to print as well. And if clubs want to meet, they also have an open area for them to meet as well there. Of course, you have your library and other areas. Besides that, from a campus-wise though, we'll keep most of the building locked there, but there will be plenty of places where students can be in the morning there. Those pieces.
I do have a couple of questions. The numbers that you were talking about, 400 at one school and 500 at another school. So these students will be on campus. Mm-hmm. In reference to the in-service, why aren't we not including the counselors on these in-service and developments? And as you're talking, you're saying the clubs are going to be meeting, things like that. Well, aren't the staff and the faculty advisors for these clubs? So are these students that are just going to be in these rooms on their own? And who's going to be watching 400 or 500 students? And I guess as I look at this is, you know, this is a great opportunity, and we've had conversations in reference to student success. As we are moving forward with our faculty and staff on our campuses, this would be a perfect time to offer something for our students at the same time. It doesn't have to be our faculty and staff. It can be an outside group that comes in, talks about all the things that, you know, they need to know once they leave high school, okay? You know, and I think this would be a wonderful time, and if we offer donuts and bagels, they will come, and instead of them just hanging out aimlessly around campus, let's utilize that group of students and perhaps maybe look at some things where we can offer some development for our students too as well.
I completely agree. Okay. I didn't elaborate on that, but we were in discussions with that as well. So sure. Absolutely. Sure. The counselors, and to answer that question piece, we'll have different variety of Wednesdays set up. Specifically, I mean, there's 4 counselors. Ms. Buscema serves a role as a bit of a counselor at different points, obviously focusing on one specific area, but we'll definitely have our counselors involved with professional development. Certain professional development might not fit for them as well there. Their day as well, and I feel comfortable saying that they can move between different professional developments because their day is less tied up. They can make time when they come to the district office for great professional development with Ms. Corey and Dr. K all the time here. So they have that ability to schedule that out, of course, during their day, but the teachers don't. You know, they've got classes every period of the day. They have students showing up. So they will be involved, but they, of course, have opportunity to balance their schedule.
I would just see it would be more of a positive setting instead of the students all roaming around campus, going to the library, going to here, have something more constructive and educational during that time period.
Absolutely.
As well, so.
I have a bunch of questions too. So one thing that Dr. Thomas and I talked about last evening was that the pilot, I think what you said to me is that it was going to be for 9 weeks. Is that true? Or is this for the whole year?
We hope that it'll run the whole year, but we'll evaluate it after 9 weeks.
Okay. So my anxiety, and I hear all the things you're saying, and they're all needed and they're all good, but you can understand from where I'm sitting that this is like a 1 week thing. So Mr. Tannenbaum, how long have you known and been planning for this, would you say?
Nothing's been solidified. until as we started to move into the summer here. There's been conversations, the need for professional development. It's hard to answer that completely, just because there's been a conversation about needed professional development for quite a while, and I think that's been a topic of conversation with the board. Of how do we find professional development that fits specifically for everybody, which is a very difficult task.
No, I agree. But what I'm getting at, and Mr. Fields, this is so new. What I hate as a teacher, and you would agree with me, is all of a sudden we're thinking of work for teachers to do. Have you been thoughtful enough about the things that we're going to be delivering to teachers? And in other words, if this happens second semester, Mr. Fields, would you feel more comfortable starting this second semester to give you time? I mean, are we rushing things?
Okay, these are all good questions. Let me touch base on a couple of those considerations, because I think that the very things you're saying out loud were the very things I started thinking when I heard about this. And I'm also thinking, I have a brand new principal here, and how far along had those conversations been happening? And what I learned in this process was that this conversation about what to do and how to use those days had been almost a whole school year before, talking about, if we had this time, what would we do? The assistant principals at Higley High had been working with Steve and his team on how could we structure these, because one of the things we're going to talk about is they have talked about meaningful professional development with those days, in fact including the instructional coaches from the district office, so that at least once a month that the content coaches would be part of what they're doing with those teachers. One time they'd be at Higley High, one time they'd be at Williamsfield, so that they've created a schedule, if you will, of what they want to do and how they want to use that time. We've identified, obviously we have new ELA and math standards that are in their second year of implementation with some resources, but we have new science and social studies standards this year. So quite honestly, this is the way the instructional coaches were like beyond thrilled, because this would be their time to work with teachers on understanding the design of these new standards, building our standards implementation documents, and going into it deeply. So from those content areas, what are we doing and how are we doing it? There's a lot to do, and they were excited for this opportunity. So I hear my thoughts were thinking the very same thing about you, about what, who, what, when, where, now what. But in here, the more I heard about the thoughtful work that had been done about it and thinking for it and what they wanted to do with those days, it seemed to me like this had been obviously well in the works and plans for quite a long time, with the idea that it was rolling forward. The communication piece of looping all involved was the part that had not happened, but the people and the players were counting on it, planning on it, thinking on it, because they were ready to roll with plans.
So I do want to say, Mr. Tannenbaum, you certainly have my trust. You've earned my trust.
Appreciate it.
So it sounds like the teachers are all
yes, and I'm sorry if I didn't answer that. Yeah, my teachers are very, very, very much in support.
And so I guess with that communication piece, what I would have, had we known about this, I wish that we could have dumped more money into your media centers and given you some more comfortable seating for kids. And I know it's coming, but I would have really pushed for that, so there was a space for those kids to plug in and connect and collaborate or whatever that they needed to do. So I wish, and none of you are at fault, but in the future, let's just make sure that everybody's included in the conversation so we can help. I mean, we always want to be supportive and help. But then my question is the community. And what is yours? I'm just putting you on the spot, Mr. Fields. But
sure. My first worry was, okay, my goodness, I saw this email going, oh wow. Let me loop in our new administrator. Let me get a sense of what the history is. Let me talk to Dr. Thomason. Let me talk to everyone to get a sense of where we are. The thought that what happened is that there's communication that went out to families because of part of the schedule. There was a communication that went to Williamsfield and to Higley High families saying, this is in place.
But when was that? Just recently? Okay.
That was
Okay,
couple
all right,
weeks.
that was the first day, okay.
That was the
okay.
first communication. Literally, these gentlemen and I were meeting before the administrative retreat over at Bergie's for coffee to run through the who, the what, the when, the where, and the now what's, and how and what's been communicated and how do we communicate this. So obviously, that is not the time frame in which we would like to communicate information. Obviously, we would want to have come here, talked about it first, and then communicated with families. The issue being that school, they were already showing up to pick up schedules and information, and pretty much these teachers and teams were already under the assumption that this was how they were rolling for next year. So here's communication has been provided to families. These gentlemen, I have followed up with them quite frequently on, have we heard questions, concerns, complaints, issues? There have been none. No.
You had surveyed some. Mr. Fields had mentioned he had surveyed. He was asking students at their Kingdom Days as well.
I can speak as the mom position. I did hear about it as a mom first before a board member, which that sometimes does kind of, okay, yep. But I knew it was coming. But one of the things that I know from the Higley standpoint is that's one of the biggest things our teachers were talking about last year was the lack of PD and the lack of connection within departments. And there were departments that were suffering in that area. So when I got the email, that conversations I've had with teachers came back quickly, and I knew this would be so good, and it will trickle down into the classroom because they will have that connection that I think was lacking. So from a parent point, I think it's fantastic. But as a board, I'd like to hear it a little sooner.
Here's the deal, and the timing of it was the hard part. And my first thought was, oh, there's no way. All of the oh no filters were running through my head until I had realized this would have been punishing those who had already put this in place because of communication hadn't happened appropriately. So this is one of those, ooh, not ideal moments, because this is where we are right now. So our thought is that what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to implement this. We're going to need to methodically implement this. We're going to need to document what's going well, what are our schedules, what is feedback from teachers, what are we able to accomplish with our teachers at that time. We're going to have to monitor and adjust. Are there challenges? I mean, obviously, one of the things you heard them talk about is they're going to look for engagement opportunities for students. Supervision opportunities for growth are going to be huge. And that's where we're going to have an opportunity to see how many kids are coming. What are some opportunities that are appropriate there? We're going to have to document what we learn and share this. But what this really is going to be is a learning opportunity for us, because this really is a bigger conversation. Because as I tell you, from an area of curriculum instruction, we have an opportunity with early release with elementaries. What are we doing at the secondary level? This is a larger discussion. And this is an opportunity for us to learn from this on what do we want to do for 7-12 for professional development that's meaningful. The amount of work that we have an opportunity to do with teachers in standards curriculum and instruction is huge. We're beginning to talk about learning targets, success criteria, aligning resources. How are we utilizing that? That takes time and ongoing time. So this is going to be something that we want to come back to you with a full-blown plan of here's what we've learned. And here's what we'd recommend, and how do you want to, or not, what are our next steps for proceeding versus ready, go, done kind of opportunity. So that's kind of where we're at right now. So this is a hurry up, catch up, but a bigger conversation of now what? And what did we learn from this, and what do we think about for moving forward? So that's where we're at. More questions for us?
Just a couple. I guess questions, comments. I too was on vacation, got my email letter, and I'm like, what? What is this? But I think with the rest of the board, I know that we had expressed concern with the lack of professional development available for our high schools, especially with the implementation of new curriculums and just in general that they just didn't have a lot of time. With that said, I have to say I'm slightly concerned that 30 minutes a week is not going to be enough. And I know and I appreciate, because what we've talked about and the goals that the board has put out for this next school year is that we're being intentional and we're being accountable. And so I appreciate the intentional thought, but my concern is 30 minutes once a week is not going to be enough. That our teachers will need more. And I know when doing professional development or leading a seminar, like, you're just getting started and it's time to go, you know? And so I would like to have you guys watch out for that frustration. Like, we had to, because you have to stop. I mean, it's not like, well, we'll stay 15 minutes longer and I'm going to be late for dinner and the kids will be fine. You have to stop and get to class because your kids are there. They're on campus. So that would be one thing I would like for you guys to kind of watch and monitor. I know with Mr. Tannenbaum, part of a discussion is that we were talking about, instead of the early release Wednesdays, doing a later start and kind of doing the half-day Wednesday, but where high school would have the morning time and the kids would be in school on the later part of the day, kind of like they do on the, what is it, the ACT day or something like that when we have a late start, to give those teachers a larger block of time. Because our teachers still don't have a lot of professional development with the early release Wednesdays, the way it impacts the high school and the middle school.
Because they only have almost like the one a month, the way the kind of calendar fell.
Right.
Yep. So
it's more than what you had last year. Yes. So I'm thankful for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd like to, I know you guys are going to be documenting and paying close attention to this, and please, I mean, we want to hear how it's going, what needs to be adjusted, and how can we do it, because we do want to support these teachers. We do agree that they need more professional development time. Not to saying they're not doing a good job. They need time to learn the new curriculum. They need time to collaborate and things like that. So, and then my other follows up with what Mr. Witovich said. I'm assuming primarily the 400 and some odd students, 500 and some odd students are going to be your freshmen and sophomores, primarily, the ones who aren't driving themselves to school. So another ongoing conversation that we've had with our high schools, with this board, is the lack of meeting time with their counselors. I hear you saying their counselors will be there. I know some of the feedback we get from students is, I can never get in to see my counselor. I never get to see them. I try and schedule an appointment. They're busy. I know our counselors have large loads, so I recognize that. But perhaps being intentional, this could be a good time, especially with those freshmen, to intentionally schedule appointments a week ahead with these kids and say, you ride the bus? Yep, I ride the bus. So you'll be here at this time? Why don't you come in at this time since we have a late start class? So maybe working with our counselors to do some very intentional meetings, especially with our underclassmen, and helping them along the way. It's a start. Obviously, if we know we have other upperclassmen there, not a bad time to schedule a time if they're driving themselves. Can you be here at this time? Because they're there at that time every other day except Wednesday. But maybe really utilizing that time for our students so they're not pulling them out of class and having a little more access and giving them time to purposely meet with their counselors. So I'm excited about trying to give our teachers more time, and I do like this, and I understand the communication piece for sure. So at least we had somewhat been talking about it, and it didn't totally catch us off guard. But as a parent, I'm reading my back to school stuff, so at least I read it. So
hello, Alan and I are saying, hello, surprise, here's something new.
right. And I do think it is for the greater good as well. And I'm glad the teachers are excited about it, and I hope that that we can get out of it what we want. But I'm just worried about those few pitfalls, and I'm certainly excited to kind of hear the feedback and what we can do to continue to support that time, because we do find it valuable.
Okay, I have a couple questions. Pilot, how long is it going to last? Is it a semester, or are we talking 9 weeks? The pilot part of this.
Well, the pilot, first of all, we're going to start implementing it right
away. But will it be lasting just this first semester and then it'll come back to us, or will it be the full school year? Dr. Thomason, maybe you can answer that.
President Reese, members of the board, what we have planned is to pilot it the first quarter and then bring back a board update at the end of October, early November, and make those tweaks and adjustments at that time.
But it will still be going on. It's not going to change. It's not going to go away.
There may be some tweaks in time, maybe an extra 5 minutes here, maybe a loss of 5 minutes there, maybe some date adjustments, whether they need more or less, different things. We know as we move forward, there may be just some slight adjustments to times and dates.
So I think Mr. Glover and Mrs. Wilson, after 9 weeks, we're not going to be like, never mind, school starts at this time on Wednesdays. So are we, while we're piloting it and making some changes and things like that, I'm assuming we're giving this the full year commitment. So it's not going to change at all throughout the year, other than making some small adjustments. But the late start, we're giving a full year commitment to. Is that is that how I should understand this?
And as part of that, yes, and as part of that larger conversation, coming back with, before we say how will this continue, or what would this look like next year, or what will we do at the junior high level as a larger conversation, would come back with here's what we've learned, here's what we know, this is what we're suggesting, or a plan as part of a more thorough plan and detail before any implementation for the following year would be made or communicated.
Assuming no major change, I would assume if for whatever reason something larger that perhaps would happen at the semester. If it required some major change, it would happen at the semester with plenty of communication ahead of time.
Yep.
But other than that, we're looking at this going all year and just monitoring it, making some fine adjustments, and then really coming back with a solid plan for next year.
And adjusting for meaningful along the way, opportunities for students, opportunities for teachers, feedback on the professional development, so that we can make that time as meaningful for everybody across the board with what we're doing and how we're doing it.
I would love to, oh, go ahead.
Again, the thing I'm very excited about is the involvement of the district curriculum folks working closely with the teachers as well. This gives them more time. This is going to be really great for us in the work we need to do with our planning, with our assessment. Our coaches are excited about this dedicated time with teachers.
I'm very excited about it. I think it's something that we have asked for as a board, to do some professional development in our high schools and middle schools, more than here and there a few times. How many kiddos are doing 0 hour? I'm not up that early, so you have to share with me how many early risers we have.
I got it.
Because that could take these numbers quite up a bit, because I'm assuming most juniors and seniors are taking 0 hour because they're driving and their parents are lazy like me.
Okay, so at Higley High School right now we had 19 sections of 0 hour type courses, and again I have the types of courses that are being offered then, right. And that would be about 454 students right now. Now there probably there may have been scheduled changes since this has been pulled and printed, and then Williamsfield had 13 sections with 314 students who are part of the 0 hour.
So now we're going to have around 800 kids on campus at Williamsfield. Some of them may
Yeah.
Well, no, 'cause
Yep,
they
and
said-
again, some of those too are marching band. Some of those
Oh.
hours are marching band. They're ROTC, so they
Okay.
aren't actually the courses. They'll have section leaders who will probably continue to work with the students through that entire time. Some of those are study hours. There are some core courses, but they are English. There's math. There's English, social studies, weightlifting, study hall, kind of 0
Okay.
hours. So we're not talking all academic.
Okay.
Courses that are offered at that time.
Well, that is something to think about as the principals move forward. There may be a little more kids than what you're expecting, because I would assume 0 hour are mostly juniors, seniors, because their parents are like me. If you want to drive, if you want to take a 0 hour, great, but you drive yourself. So, am I right?
Yep.
And then I just want to make sure that we get that update earlier. As everyone on the board has already mentioned, we're a little blindsided by this. So I'd just like to hear it a little earlier and not in my email and my husband asking about it. Thank you.
Me too. Thank you.
A few more things, guys. Were you going to go ahead? No, I thought Oh, no, you didn't. No. President Reese made some good points, and you got to start somewhere, and I think this is reasonable. I'm kind of surprised that you guys convinced me so quickly, because after reading the board packet. But just, of course, remember to remind students and families as much as you can and as often as you can. I know you know that. For Dr. Fowler, if there are flexible seating, anything, if you would think about anything we can do to help speed that up so that the kids, if the library is not in use, that there is a space that is a little bit more welcoming. No offense to the libraries, but they could be a little more flexible. And then I wanted to make mention, just in case anybody was wondering, that the number of minutes that the high school kids have to be seen, we far exceed that. So there's no rub at all. And in fact, they were attending way more minutes than they needed. So there's nothing, that's not something. But if the three of you are telling me earnestly that you are ready to go with this, I will absorb whatever slings and arrows, and I will support you. But you give me, okay, I got 3 nods. We're full on ready to go with the community, students, all that stuff, teachers, staff. Okay.
I think also we had asked Dr. Thomason, we were asking prior, we kind of wanted to see what Mrs. Richards had come up with on the Wednesdays kind of plan. I think you were going to include that in one of your superintendent report, and maybe we could see just 1 month at a glance of a plan of high school, just so we can see, because I like to be able to tell the community, well, I know for sure that the teachers were doing this today, and that just, I don't know, it just strengthens the bond there. So if we could have that in your I'd love it.
You can come. I mean, I know that you can't, you have to announce certain times, but anytime you want to come on the campus on Wednesday, come on over. You're welcome to, though, honestly. But just to let you know, that invitation's there anytime. You want to come over and come walk around, and even just a day before notice or not, come on over. Very, very comfortable with that anytime.
So President Reese, members of the board, I'm clear, we want to make sure that on the next superintendent's report, we get a professional development calendar for our elementary, middle, and high schools.
Just
1 month at a time?
Yeah.
Thank you.
One more concern. 0 hour students leaving campus. So what's your plan? How do we keep them safe? Technically they're not in class. What is the thought on that? Because, I'm sorry, Higley's they don't have anything around. Williamsfield has Dunkin' Donuts right across the street. And coming from a parent whose kid was excused from 0 hour early one day and went to Dunkin' Donuts and got in a car accident on his way back, that's very concerning to me that these kids from 0 hour, because they'll get out a little bit early on 0 hour for that Wednesday and not have to be back. Is there any thought, any plans? Obviously we can't keep them on campus, but that's a concern. So kind of having those thoughts in our minds. And like Mr. Witovich said, I know it seems so basic, but unfortunately our kids these days, they don't know about check registers, and I'm not saying that they should use one, but they don't know how to do a budget and they don't know how to balance. They just know if I look at my balance, I have a magic card, and if it's not a negative, this card's gonna work, things like that. And Mr. Witovich has talked several times about lunch and learn programs, having someone from the banking community come and run little 30-minute seminars on these types of things. And that's just an example, you know. So if we can really be reaching out to our communities and to give them opportunities, you know, if I'm kind of stuck on campus anyway, I might as well do something. I'm not going to do homework, or I'm not, you know, I might as well go learn something. And a lot of those companies will have little trinkets and little giveaways, and kids love those. So that might be an opportunity to really kind of fill that time and make it meaningful for the students so that they have a takeaway. But I worry not so much about Higley because there's nothing around right here that real quick to go to, but I do worry about Circle K, and I do worry about Dunkin' Donuts coming from Williamsfield. So just thoughts, but that might be a really good opportunity. It's not a lunch and learn, it's a breakfast? Brain breakfast or something. I don't know.
It's a great point to bring in people in, because I mean, as all of you know, we bring them now, but when we do so, we have to pull them out of class. They have to sign out and go through the process. So this allows them to be there. And it's the same piece with the counselors as well. It's, you know, we have to see them, but we got to pull them out of class, and they're trying to find the best elective to then pull them out. And so that was part of it. And I didn't mention before, but we had discussed as well, is that we both have our coaches on campus. So we have a math instructional specialist and they have an English instructional specialist. That's a perfect time as well to implement some of our RTI and some of our remediation using our data and having them in. So there's, though we didn't discuss that piece, there's conversations about pulling kids in tutoring and having maybe a staff step away out of the PLC team that time to also provide more support if there is a need for two, you know, for two teachers to be in the room, depending on the size of group of students that particular week. The weeks that you have the large exams, or you have a retake on something, or you have an opportunity for some points to come in, if they go to tutoring, any of those pieces, the number of students will increase. It's just about communicating it to the kids that this Wednesday, this room will be open. And for us, we would open up, like for us, we'd open up our lecture hall that morning specifically to math, if that was the case, and supervise it correctly.
We could go to one Wednesday so that kids can plan on that. It could be that, you know, the first Wednesday of the month, language arts is always available, or the second Wednesday, math is always available, so kids can have that pre-planning time to know when they can go and meet with the teacher and get some extra support.
Also, in reference to that, you know, the learning opportunity for our students, I hope we will, you know, these colleges, we have a large dual enrollment population, and these students should be able to utilize these services, and, you know, these colleges should start bringing some of the services to our students, and, you know, how to study. The librarians come on campus and do all these things. So, I mean, we have ASU and, you know, the other schools, you know, we need to have them come and start working with our students. So this would be a great time for them to come and start doing some things for us. Right?
See, and this is what we're kind of excited about. We will definitely are going to provide you a sample schedule so you can kind of see our outline, what we're doing. But this will be where we'll have the opportunity to collect our information on what we're doing, what's going well, how we've been monitoring, adjusting, so that we can come back to you when we say, this is what we've learned, and this is what we would recommend when and if thinking about how would we do this at other grade levels at the secondary, and for next year. So again, this is going to be truly an opportunity for us together to learn and grow together. And I think it will be important too, as you hear, if we will be sharing what we learn, and if you hear things that would be helpful, we'd ask that you share that with us too, so that we can continue to make this as meaningful as possible for all involved.
Mr. Tannenbaum, one last thing.
Yes.
You may want to maybe warn our favorite businesses, Circle K and the Dunkin' Donuts,
Sure.
that, you know, there may be an influx of students on Wednesdays, just so they can have a heads up and they're not blindsided by the amazing amount of donuts. Exactly. Sure. Like I can
Sure.
just see, and I just want to keep those great partnerships with those businesses so they can have some extra staff or donuts if needed at those favorite places. Thank you.
I think I heard
Absolutely.
Jen Corey volunteering to do that in the back. Okay. No?
I know that too, just talking with the, it's not always just the juniors and seniors for A-Hour, but our LDS friends have our freshmen and our sophomores for A-Hour seminary, so they're there early a lot, so, and their parents drive them. They carpool.
Right, thank you so much. Anyone else have any questions or comments? Thank you, we appreciate it. Do you have anything else to share with us?
Thank you.
Yes,
Appreciate the
thank you.
support. Really appreciate Dr. Thomason's support as well during this process. So really, thank you.
Perfect.
President Reese, members of the board, I did just wanted to reiterate that I know that the timing wasn't great on this, but we also did not want to punish the students or staff for mistakes made on adults in the district's part, and so that's why we went ahead and put it on this board agenda and pushed it through.
No, thank you. We appreciate that. All right, if no one else has any questions, we're going to go back because we did say we would vote. This is 6.14 after the presentation. Do I need to make another motion for 6.14? Okay. All right, well, I move that we approve 6.14 from the consent agenda.
Second.
Any other questions or comments? Mr.
Madam
Glover?
President, just one. I know that we spent a lot of time talking about the secondary schools, but they're actually, the other point on here was that there was a wrong day on the calendar. So I'm trying to pull that up as to which day it was. Was it the 30th?
The incorrect denotion of the parent-teacher conferences at the middle school, it was landing on a professional development day, and it should have been that Thursday and Friday, not that Wednesday, Thursday. So we figured while we were cleaning that up and making that that we would also denote the late start component too on that. I'm sorry, in August.
Okay. That was the only other change to the calendar, was the correction of the early release days for parent-teacher conference for middle school only.
Right, in that August month. And then what we did was added in the July box the information about the late start, and then indicated each month where there would not be a late start because there was already the scheduled, agreed upon professional development day.
Perfect.
Can we make sure that we do a reminder for those parents out via the app?
Yeah.
We pretty much do that already, but just as a quick reminder, that communication piece for the parents to be out
On
via
the
the app.
For professional
That
development.
app.
Yeah, like, because, okay, those dates I can say, oh, great, but now I won't remember that. Thank you.
Kind of like we get the reminders for the early release Wednesdays for the elementaries. Just, I'm sure we'll get pushes on the high schools when there is and when there's not. So. All right. Any other questions or comments? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries 5-0. All right. And we have our future agenda items. Any questions? Anything to add?
President Reese?
Yes.
I'm kind of interested in finding out, I know that our, the communication plan that came to us, I would love to hear how that went back to our schools, and did they start making those decisions on the communication piece? We were talking about like how each elementary would, what was the expectation for teacher communication to parents? Have we done that yet? Are we, I would love an update when that is available.
I met with all the principals during the administrative retreat, and we are in the process of scheduling meetings with each of them to start working on their own communication plans.
Perfect.
I would like to see the update be added to this little list of ours for the pilot of this program, the high school program. Thank you.
So have it updated to put, so we schedule it, the update on this pilot at our end of October or beginning, I think we only have one board meeting in November, so in that time frame to give them time to prepare. That way we've set time aside already. Anything else?
President Reese,
Mr. Ratovich?
wasn't there on the schedule in reference to presentation for the school year in reference to student success and our students beyond high school? Didn't we have something on that agenda for something? I don't see it on there. We were talking about how we're preparing our students beyond Higley.
Yes, President Reese, members of the board, that is one of the things that is on our extensive list for future agenda items. We do just have 2 months that are listed on there, but we do have an enormous amount of future agenda items that are on a list that we'll be bringing forward.
Yes. All right. Anything else? All right. With that, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Have a good night and good luck on Monday.